We're doing a rapid fire intro here. Let's jump in. In 1 to 2 sentences, who are you?
A guy who beats to his own drum and tries to get better and better at doing it. And hopefully that way I put on a good show and inspire other people to do the same thing.
And how do you make money online?
I rent out space on my blog so that advertisers can try to steal the attention of the 100 to 200,000 people that visit every month.
And what's your favorite thing about digital nomading?
The weather. Rapid fire.
That's a good one. Where are you now, and what are your 2 to 3 favorite cities in the world?
I'm in Cape Town. It's one of my 2 favorite cities. The other one would be Vancouver.
Best concise advice for aspiring digital nomads?
Find a place you really like and stick it out there longer rather than continuously being a nomad.
And what small change has made a big difference in your life?
2015, I started writing down every single thing I do. It's called life logging. So it's been a huge thing for me.
And your favorite book?
It changes with my age. So it started off being Hatchet, and then it was The Power of One, and then Atlas Shrugged, and then Show You the Joking Mr. Feynman. And I'm due a new one soon. I'm not sure. Hopefully I'll find one.
And last one is, if you had 20 seconds to live, what message would you share with the world?
I would say, how are you keeping score in the game of life? And then I'd say, please look out for my baby boy, Zach. Help look out for him because I'm not going to be around.
I like it. Cool. Well, one other thing I'll add, since it wasn't in the intros, Chris Blachut. Is that pronounced right?
No, it's impossible though. It's Blachut. It's the worst.
Blachut.
Yeah.
French?
Polish.
Polish. All right, right on. Appreciate the rapid fire intro. Let's jump into your digital nomading journey. Tell me about taking the leap to become a digital nomad. Like, what sparked this life shift?
Yeah, well, I guess for me, it wasn't so much of a leap because in university, I did 1-year exchange in France. And then after I graduated, I eventually got a job in Switzerland. And then I convinced them to transfer me to Panama. And then I retired from that and went back to Canada, where I'm originally from. And then from there, I guess I've already been familiar with living abroad and working abroad for many years. So then a few years later, I was with my now wife, Kim, and we got kicked out of our apartment because they were tearing it down. We had nowhere to go. We were in Vancouver. It was November, I think. So the weather was getting crap, and the perk of being a digital nomad. So we said, hey, we both speak Spanish. We both want to go to a Latin American country. So we said, why don't we have nothing to do here in Vancouver. Why don't we go to Medellin? Spent 6 months there, and the rest is history.
And then you're one of the only people I know who talks about pre-tirement and pre-tire. Talk to me about pre-tirement, like what that means. And I'd also be, what that means and why you did it.
Right. I guess what it would mean is just retiring before you're actually prepared to retire. Most people, work until they're 50, 60, 70 years old, looking forward to retirement. And a pre-retirement is basically doing it beforehand so you can get a taste for it and understand what it's like and figure out if the retirement you've been planning for all this time is actually what you should be planning for and saving for all. And then I did it after working for 4.5 years at this company, Procter & Gamble, that many people are familiar with. I was no longer going to get my expat package in Panama, and I said, screw it. I'd always had a plan just to work for 5 years and then do my own thing. I had a bunch of money saved. I told them that I was retiring, but pre-tiring, and just took off. And that was the last day I ever worked a real job for somebody else in my life. And I still think that I'm doing what I want to do, doing what I love, doing what I enjoy, and doing something that I hope I never retire from. So I guess my pre-retirement continues.
So tell me about when you first started pre-retirement. Like, if you had a set amount of time, if you had an expiration date where you're like, okay, I have X amount of savings, it's going to last me approximately this long? Or was it more open-ended where you felt like you had enough of a cushion where you're just like, I'm gonna jump off the cliff here and I'm gonna figure it out?
Yeah, I had no plan whatsoever. Zero. I had enough of a cushion. I probably had a few $100,000 saved. And I'd heard all these the fire guys say whatever you needed a certain amount of money, but I didn't really spend too much time thinking about that. Just jumped off and knew that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life working for someone else doing this, and I needed to do something different. I had plenty of cushion. I knew that I had good professional experience, that if anything ever went wrong, whatever, I could get a job, no problem. And I knew that if I kept on learning stuff, I would even more rewarding, more fulfilling, and more fun to do. So I just took the leap of faith.
And what inspired you to do it? Like, did you read a blog? Did you watch a YouTube video? Was there some piece of information that you consumed where you're like, oh, like pre-retirement, that's a concept? Or did you just wake up one day and you're like, I'm gonna pre-tire?
I guess the biggest inspiration, the biggest push out the door was the fact that I got my expat package taken away, right? So I was going to lose half my salary. So that was like a good time to be like, and I knew this was going to happen even before I moved to Panama. So I already had this in the back of my mind, like, okay, I'm not going to work for these guys for half as much as they're paying me now, even though it still be a decent amount of money. And so and then in terms of like, did I have any like examples that I've followed? I guess maybe someone like, like the typical Tim Ferriss or Mr. Money Mustache or something inspire me, but I don't really remember that. I just know that I was like, man, I want to travel some more. I want to try my own business. I think that I can do it. I'm tired of making money for other people. I'm tired of having to wear socks all the time and having to shave all the time. I just want to just be free and do what I like to do, even though I don't even know what that is.
Because I feel like FIRE is a very popular concept, pre-tirement. I guess Tim Ferriss might have talked about it in his book, but it feels like a novel concept, and I love it. I want to shift to meeting people while travel. I met you and Kim at a dinner party in Medellin, Colombia that you guys threw, which was awesome. That was super fun. Talk to me about how you meet people while living different places. You're doing dinner parties, you're doing other things. Like, take me through sort of your process and what has worked for you.
Well, I guess like to preface it, I'm an introvert, so I don't really care too much about meeting that many people, but I know it's good for me. If I make a few good friends, I'm happy. First is sports, right? Like even when I was going to university in France or living in Panama or Switzerland, it was basketball, right? I got involved in local clubs, played with them, got to know the people that way, learn the language, learn the local culture, and not only hang out with other expats like most other people did.
For me, I love surfing, and surfing is how I've met a lot of people in different places, and I meet them in the water, or you meet someone in a cafe and you find out they surf, and then you go out and you surf together. It's like just an easy connection point to do something with other people. And I imagine team sports like what you're doing with volleyball is a great one, because you're on a team, and so you're interacting with other people and you're meeting people you're playing against, and like it very much in a unique ecosystem. So I like that a lot. So connecting from meeting people in person to a concept that you talked about in your intro, which is about like how much time you spend in one place. I'm curious to get your thoughts on, how you think about like time in different places and how your thinking has evolved on that topic, both as you've digital nomaded more, and I guess now, maybe I'm making this too complicated, but now that you also have a newborn kid, that factors in as well. So just take me through how your thought process has evolved with that.
Yeah, well, I guess that's something that's changed a lot in the last couple of months. First, for some reason, I just had this idea in the month of November, to email a different old friend every single day for the month of November, the one that I had lost contact with for over the past 10 years. That like, it was really rewarding to hear back from these guys that I hadn't, like from France, Panama, whatever, that I hadn't heard back from ages, and see what's new with them. And also reminded me like, man, I already have, like, I don't need to make new friends. I have plenty enough friends already, and the friends that I have, I should make more of. At the same time, I happened to read this book called it's about like trying to embrace optionality, but do the opposite and really focus on going deeper rather than shallow. And that again, just sort of reinforced the idea that, listen, like I said, I'm an introvert, so I don't need a lot of friends. I don't need a lot of social time. Why do I need to be, I don't care really about being popular, because if I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So why not just dig deeper in getting to know the people that I know already really well. It's worked with my wife. It's going to work with my son, hopefully, and just keep it going with that. And that's how it's been going. And it's like sort of like a relief now that I don't have to spend this time worrying about making new friends, meeting new people. Obviously, you do. It just comes with just life in general, and that's like, it's fun, but I think it's more rewarding at the end of the day just to go deep with people or activities or anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this concept a lot in my own life, both on the location side and on the relationship side. And on the location side, it's been traveling much slower. And my
right.
long-term plan is to have Bali be my home base, where I'll spend 9 months out of the year. But in the shorter term, before I can get there, it's like spending 3 to 6 months in any given place, as opposed to like 4 to 8 weeks, which is how I did it when I first started traveling, which is fast. And I mean, as you probably know, like trying to build lasting relationships in 1 to 2 months, it almost feels, sometimes it can feel not really worth it, because you know you're going to be gone. You may not connect with that person for a long time in person.
Yeah, like us. No, but
like you guys. But here we are. Here we are,
exactly.
remote.
You never know. So I guess there's an upside, right? Upside to that. Exactly. And the other thing is like for meeting other people, it also helps, right? Because if you're like zooming through the Canary Islands for 5 weeks, right? Local people there are gonna be like, oh, cool, this guy is a cool guy, but he's only here 5 weeks. I'm not gonna invest myself. Our relationship, right? Here in South Africa, right? The first year we had a hard time meeting people, right? They're like, oh man, these are just some like Canadian people that are coming by. They're just coming here to take advantage of the cheap everything, drink some wine, and then leave. But the second year we came back, third year, now this is the fourth year. Now they're like, oh wait, these are actually like our people. And now we're like enmeshed with the community and feel like we have really good friends, and it feels like, yeah, much better, right? So I think that's your points well made, and
yeah,
gotta check out Bali still.
Well, I've been thinking about, or I mean, something I've done and implemented that I may have told you on our previous call. It's been one of the most impactful changes I've made in my life in the last couple of years, I guess, since COVID, which is doing recurring calls with a lot of my favorite people all over the world. Since I've been traveling, most of my favorite people, I guess, kind of to your point, it's like I've met people that I love. Difficult to keep in touch with those people because we may not be in the same city. And so I've just set up like recurring calendar events every month or 3 months or 6 months. Like we each get a calendar notification and we hop on a Zoom call. And it's been an amazing way to take a world where sometimes people can feel so far away and you feel very disconnected. And it now feels like I have a whole like tribe of people who I talk to on a regular basis, even though they're all over the place. And I'm obsessed with it. I tell everybody about it.
Really?
And I'm singing the praises. It's like my religion now.
I like it. I like that idea. You've got a convert right here. How many people do you do this with?
I probably have maybe like 35.
Whoa, 35! Holy smokes! Yeah. Okay, cool. Nice.
All at different intervals. It's some people it's a couple times a year, like 2 times a year, 3 times a year, sometimes quarterly. The most frequent I have is every other week with just a couple people, some monthly. So it's kind of all over the place, but it's been amazing. I mean, it's, for me, a lot of it is with other like online entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs. And so I'm constantly talking to people who inspire me and who I love as people. And we have a lot of like business synergies and mission synergies. And I've just found, because that's like been a big lack for me. Like coming here to Fuerteventura, I'm going to Puerto Rico next, like finding it's not that hard to find like fun people to hang out with. It can be very difficult to find people that are on like similar missions or have like similar ambition. And I think that's where kind of canvassing the world as opposed to just your town, you can find really like-minded people. And even on a broader level, I think for anyone who feels like they're in a community where like, this is not my tribe, this is not my like-minded group, like especially kids, like you can find those people online where you can get in touch with almost anyone. You can set up a call, and if you hit it off, you can keep talking. So I think regardless of your interests, like you can build a tribe remotely, even if you're not Nomad.
I see your point. It sounds a bit Zuckerbergian to me, a little bit. Like
I'm living in the metaverse.
Exactly. Hey, good for you, man. Like, I think, but the one thing is that doing so, right, it enables you, or it makes you more likely to meet in person at some point, right? So that if you like,
for sure,
if you keep in touch, then, because I really think that there's still something different about hanging out with someone, going for a hike with them, whatever, doing a workout with them, than to just 100%. Like shoot the shit over some technology.
Talk to me about your blog and your life now. Obviously, you're pre-tired, but you're also a content creator. You're YouTubing, you're blogging, and for anyone who hasn't seen your blog, I'll summarize, which is you do lots of kind of fascinating like life experiments and different things. Like you have a video about sleeping on the floor. I really like the video about journaling like hour by hour and really tracking your days and how that helped you to just like analyze how you're spending your time. Talk to me, plug your blog, give us the URL, and then talk to me about your journey with that.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So thanks for the opportunity to preach. currently called the unconventional route. I say currently because I'm thinking of renaming it, because unconventional can have a negative connotation, especially if you're not familiar with it, right? Like if you think, like if you're looking for an answer to a question, like what's the best way to get a good night's sleep, and you see something called the unconventional route, you're like, man, I want the best way, not the most unconventional way, right? If I was someone on the name, like I truly believe that sleeping on the floor, not purely on the floor, but with like Japanese style with a mat is a great option for a lot of people that maybe they'll embrace if they're not put off by this idea of being unconventional, right? So yeah, the idea of the blog, I mean, it started off when we moved to Medellin and we were just traveling, started off as a travel blog, and we just doing all sorts of cool stuff. And I felt that I wanted to share that with other people, because everyone just does the same typical top 10, whatever, same BS everywhere, big lines, overcrowding, tourism. And I had owned a hostel, so I had some experience in the tourism industry and knew that it was put a thumb on the fire hose of tourism and spread the wealth. And so we did lots of cool stuff, wrote about it, hence the name, the unconventional route. And then it did pretty well. Like people really enjoyed it. People got cool ideas, and it felt really rewarding to help people and the businesses that we were promoting to like expand their horizons and to like beat their own path when it came to travel. And then COVID hit and we weren't traveling. And so I was like, well, this doesn't just apply to travel, this applies to everything in life, right? Like you don't need to do the top 10 that everyone else is chasing to do. It's more about thinking for yourself, exploring for yourself, and making the most of your own, like living a good story that's not a story told by somebody else. And so I've just started like, I read a lot, think a lot, just do a lot of random shit and like to have a good time experimenting with stuff like you mentioned. And so I write about that on the blog and on the newsletter, and now trying to make videos about that to hopefully inspire people not to do the same as me, but to sort of be open-minded, be actively open-minded about things, and never be set in a specific rut doing the same thing over and over again.
That's an interesting philosophy. I like that, of not inspiring people to take your path, but inspiring them to like explore unconventional paths. I kind of like the name. I feel like I guess the similar name would be like nonconformist, although I guess that's a slightly different word, but I like it. I mean, even what you said there, you've taken your own path. You're trying to get people to find and take their own path. I mean, I kind of like the name.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, people say that, I don't know, man. That's part of the thing. It's uncertain. That's part of the fun of it, right? Like if you know exactly where you're going, that's going to suck, right? You want to be living a story that you don't know how the ending's going to go, or it's going to has some conflict. It's a bit of a challenge, right? So it's the fun of it. I'll probably just change the name just because I already know what this one is like. I want to see what's going to be like with a different name.
What has worked really well with your blog? Like what has worked best? Has the articles and things that have gone well, has it been very strategic where you've done lots of keyword research and you're trying to nail stuff, or has it been more just writing about stuff that you're really passionate about and going really in depth? Yeah, has it been more like tactical, or has it just been kind of more passion success?
Yeah, okay. Well, definitely what's worked the most is sharing my own stories, right? Like stuff like my experience, past my own experience being a dad, my experience sleeping on the floor, my experience of various different things that I've quit and why it's quitting. The saying quitters never prosper is BS, and quitters can prosper, right? You should quit a lot of things. Those type of things work the best. I guess part of the reason why is because if I try to preach as opposed to say my story, no one's going to listen. I have no authority, no credibility. I'm just some dude who has a little blog that's not that famous, right? Whereas if I just tell my story, I can tell my story in an entertaining way. I'm much more entertaining, I think, writing than speaking, and it resonates with people, and somehow Google sometimes picks it up and puts it high up in their rankings and blesses me with readers that I can then slice of to make some money to pay for my place in my life. Yeah.
Dude, I will say, as someone who's also in the Google and SEO game, can giveth and Google can taketh away. Like, I find Google infuriating sometimes, where it's like you write something great and you look at what's at the top of the search results and you're like, this is not good content. But here I am buried on like page 4.
Hey, but if it was easy, it wouldn't be fun, right? Like it's the challenge that makes it fun. And anybody who does a blog just for making money, I think that's like the shittiest life. I mean, you're not going to make that much money. You're spending a lot of time staring at a screen trying to please the masses. Don't. So like I do it because I only write about things that I'm really interested in. So I generally pick a topic to research heavily for a month or so, or I pick an experiment that I'm going to do for my own benefit, something cool. I have something cool or sharing, I write it. And then if people eventually read it, that's bonus for me. If not, no big deal. I'm not 100% counting on my blog to support our life anyways, right? I still have my retirement savings.
Love it. Well, I want to shift gears and I want to talk about Cape Town. Let's do a deep dive on Cape Town. I want to get your thoughts, your advice for other people who are thinking about spending winters or maybe even the whole year in Cape Town. So let's start with just give me your overview. Why Cape Town? What do you love about it? What do you not love about it?
What I love about Cape Town is like truly a magical place. Like it's the most beautiful city you'll ever go to, like more beautiful than Vancouver or Rio de Janeiro. It's amazing. The ocean, the beaches are like the Hawaiian beaches. The mountains are like unlike any others. The wildlife, obviously, in the safaris, but there's more natural diversity in the Fynbos, it's called here, in the mountains here, than there is in the Amazon, which people don't know because from afar it doesn't look like much. But you get up there, there's just so many flowers and different plants and whatever. It's always great to go hiking there because you're going to see something different. And then Cape Town, at least because I'm a blogger, I can have the opportunity to live a 5-star life on a 3-star budget. There's like the high end here, they do extremely well. It's very European in that way, and that like everything is very, very classy and nice. Costs whatever, a half to a third to a quarter of what it would in Canada or the United States, or right. So it allows us to live a high quality life on a low budget. And there's just so much adventure to be had around here. Just hiking, water sports, wine tasting, restaurants, and then cultural stuff, just because you're surrounded. But you see the whole gamut here, and like economic situations, right? You see the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich, and it really gives me a lot of gratitude for where I'm at. Like I'm not the richest guy in the world, but I'm sure as hell not as bad off as 95% of the other people here. Whereas like if I go back to Vancouver in the summer, which I love, you go there or any other developed city, and everyone's just like complaining about stupid shit. They're like, man, you guys are all so lucky to be here. And so lucky to be in your situation. Like so many people in Cape Town or many other countries, obviously, most other countries would jump to be at your position. So stop complaining and appreciate what you have. So that's quickly, we keep coming back to Cape Town.
And what do you think, what are the big cons there? Like what are your least favorite things about Cape Town?
Internet, this call was cut out a few times because the internet is sketchy. And not just the internet though, it's power in general. There's rolling blackouts that happen regularly throughout the year because there's a power supply issue nationally. But the biggest con, I guess, would just be the insecurity, right? Like people don't come because it's unsafe, which I think is not a good reason not to come. Yeah, exactly. Double negative, whatever. And then it's just like you can't walk around non-busy streets at night. That's the one thing that you just can't do. And I miss about not being able to do in other countries. And that's it, really.
And then on the Wi-Fi side, so rolling blackouts where it's not like a Wi-Fi company issue, it's a power it's a whole, it's the power issue. Like how often do blackouts happen where you just lose, like everyone loses Wi-Fi?
It's unpredictable, which is part of the problem. I would say like during these summer months, they turn it off just because lots of tourists come and they don't want to scare them away, I think. But other months it's, you'll have it a couple of times a week. You'll have 2 hours with no electricity. Generally prioritize the wealthier areas so that we get those rolling blackouts at 8 to 10:30 or 6:30 8:30 p.m. But even still, it's just a nuisance. On the bright side, your cell phone still works and still that is cheap, so it's not like it knocks you out.
So you can tether to your phone and keep going.
Yeah. And I think if you're that addicted to the internet, you have a problem anyway. So in some ways it's helpful to be
yeah,
like,
but
listen,
if we were doing an interview and it blacked out, that would be a problem too.
That's true, yeah.
And then take me through cost of living. What's the range of how much you'll pay for apartments, for food, for other stuff? Like what does cost of living look like and how does it compare to, a city like Vancouver?
Okay, yeah. So compared to we pay, to give a baseline. So like an apartment that we're renting here that costs about $1,700 or $1,500 US a month would cost $5,000 to $6,000 a month in Vancouver. It would probably cost roughly the same, slightly less in Medellin, so it's slightly more for real estate. And in Europe, it probably also costs whatever 3,000 to 4,000 euros for what we have. So real estate is quite affordable for renting if you find the right place, especially now, because of COVID. Food-wise, groceries and whatnot is not much cheaper than anywhere else in the world. It's a commodity. But eating out, really cheap because the cost of producing that food is very low. So you can eat out for like our favorite steak place, which has no corketry, so you can even bring your own wine. We'll serve a 300 gram, 40-day aged steak with a high quality, like really high quality steak for $10 US, right? And that comes with a side. and yeah, it comes with a side and then some starters, right? So, and then like the highest of high-end restaurants are going to be about 70 US for like a multi-course sit-down meal and like the most luxurious setting you could ever imagine, like in the middle of a wine farm overlooking mountains and oceans and everything like that. Like, yeah. And then what other costs would you be interested in?
Well, I guess on the apartment side, so as you get to like lower end, like studios, one bedrooms on maybe a monthly rate on Airbnb, because
$400 US in a good, really good location. Like if you want to share with other digital nomads, for example, and you want to be close to like the bars and restaurants and stuff like that, and the nightlife and the vibe and the cafes, yeah, $400 you'll get yourself a nice place, secure, safe, modern, clean. You're gonna pay a cleaner will cost you $17 a day to come by and keep your place clean. And so most of us have that happen.
Got it. And then weather and best months to visit. You guys go for their summer, which is our like North America's winter. Mm-hmm. Give me a rough sense of the better and not as good months and what the weather ballpark is like for those different months.
Okay, yeah. So temperature wise, like it helps to understand that Cape Town 33 degrees south of the equator, whereas basically Los Angeles is 33 degrees north of the equator, or I think it's Marrakesh is also 33 degrees above. So it's like around there. It just flipped. So it's always pretty warm, always in the like I don't know, high 60s from Fahrenheit, like high teens at the very lowest in the winter. But like from November through to April is when we come. March is the summer months, and then that's when it's never like stinking hot if you're by the coast, because the ocean is freezing cold here because it blows in from the Arctic. So it's always like in the like maybe 80, 85 degrees or like 25 degrees centigrade. Super comfortable, like comfortable right now, just standing like this. The one thing is that, and it's always dry, as you might have heard from the droughts that were famously occurring a few years ago, but now raining every once in a while, so there's no problem. Dams are full. And then it's windy. It's got crazy winds that like mad and knock you over some parts of the year. It's called the Cape Doctor. So it's keeping us healthy down here, blowing the bad air away. And then the other thing is like Cape Town, it's because like it's part of the magical place, because at the center of it is Table Mountain, right? And then the city surrounds it in a sense. Every side of that Table Mountain is going to have completely different weather, feel completely different. So if it's, they make a joke that you can have the 4 seasons of the year every day in Cape Town just by moving around the mountain.
And take me through like what is the community like? I guess on the digital nomad community side, and then more broadly, I mean, you referenced this earlier, just meeting people in general. Like how easy is it to meet other digital nomads and just connect with other people?
Yeah, I'd say like digital nomads, it's not very big here because it's the big, I guess the other downside of Cape Town is it's freaking far away from most of the rest of the Western world, right? So there's not such a large digital nomad community. There's Facebook groups, but we've tried and really just never really connected with it. So the other avenues that I already talked about. And then in terms of connecting with local people, they say like this about Vancouver and maybe like any coastal, like really nice coastal city that has it's very cliquey. So it's hard to get into meeting these people that are locals from around here. And there's not as much of an international presence because it's not as much of a business hub as say Johannesburg is. You go to Johannesburg, everyone's from elsewhere and they're trying to meet new people. Whereas here Cape Town, there's a lot of Cape Townians who have their deep relationships and they're comfortable with them, so they don't need to bother trying to meet new people. But of course, you can always weasel your way in, as we've managed to do.
And then what is the nightlife like? I imagine you're not hitting the nightlife hard now that you have a newborn, but for people who are single, like, yeah, how does the nightlife compare to other cities?
Yeah, I've never been a nightlife person, but I'd say like if I was here in my earlier mid 20s, the huge perk here is that it's model season down here, so they do all the shoots for the summer season up north, and so this place gets just teeming with models everywhere, and models like to party. And so you get involved in that community and those people, and then all of a sudden you're having some crazy model parties and a really good time. Just
sounds great.
With great looking people. Yeah. So my friends who are models who were models, great things about it. So there's that. And I guess if you're not a model and not into that, it's more it's the usual, but it's more casual, because really like when it comes to like being social and stuff, it's more so taking advantage of the outdoor activities. And even like drinking, you want to go to the wine farms in the middle of the day, and the wine farms close at 5 o'clock. So a big like fun party thing to do would be to rent a truck or like a taxi van and just go wine touring around the city, because there's like 500 wine farms within a 3-hour drive of Cape Town.
Give me a sense of neighborhoods. Like if I was going to book an Airbnb in Cape Town, what are some of the favorite neighborhoods that you would recommend, or popular neighborhoods, and maybe some that you wouldn't want to book in?
There's basically 3 parts of the city. There's the Atlantic seaboard, which is going to be the sort of coastal side. There's the city bowl, which is going to be like around like the central city downtown area. And then there's like I don't even know what to call it, but that's the part I wouldn't stay at, which is sort of like the hipster area. Like if people like, there's an appeal to it to the students. Lots of students stay there, but it's way less safe. It's kind of grungy, and you can't really walk around there. I don't know, just don't stay there. There's areas like called Woodstock Observatory, things like that. Then the city bowl, there's the sort of like, that's where the more younger people go, and the bars and clubs are more close to there, and that's an area called Gardens, and it's a little bit more affordable. And so you can live in a house or a shared apartment there, and you're right by the mountain, so you can hike up the mountain of Lion's Head or Table Mountain, and still, it's really beautiful, but you feel like you're in a city still, like to the Atlantic seaboard side, which is on the other side of Lion's Head, hopefully famous enough that most people know about it. And then you're on the coast, and then there's a promenade that goes all along the coast, and so it feels way more like a beachy city, like more of like a California type city. And it's that's where we stay, because I say stay here where we stay because we like to be right by the coast. It's nice to just walk up and down the promenade along the beach and go to the beach, play volleyball, all that.
Nice.
So it depends what you like. It's more family oriented here, I guess, socially oriented Cape Town in the city center, and then elsewhere is more oriented towards losing your stuff because it gets stolen.
Fair enough. And booking housing, is Airbnb recommended, or now that you guys stay there for, I mean, you're doing what, 5-6 months, so I imagine you probably have relationships, stay in person, but for someone who's new, who's never been, is it Facebook groups, is it local sites, is it Airbnb, is it show up in person and like visit places in person? What would you recommend? When
Cape Town's booming, it's hard because this is a sought after place to be, right? So there is a Facebook group called Huis HUIS that is best for finding shared rooms, and where will be able to find places to stay with either the Capetonians or the digital nomads. Otherwise, like you're looking through the regular channels, which is Airbnb, which there's tons up until COVID, and then all of a sudden, since there was no tourists coming, they took all those things, all the inventory off Airbnb and started renting it out again. And so now there's tons of rental properties. Who knows what's going to happen? Basically, every year we found our apartment through a different avenue. It's kind of it is difficult, but I would say it's pretty much difficult anywhere, any sought after city in the world.
Fair enough. No, that's insightful on its own. And then for working, any favorite cafes, co-working spots that you would recommend? I don't know if you're mostly working at home and can't advise there, but any you've heard about if you're not working out and about?
There's a lot. There are a lot. There's one called, I like the ones that are outdoors because like I said, we move around for the weather. So anything that gives us access to the fresh air, is protected from the wind that blows strong often, and if even better if it has a view of a mountain or the ocean. That's great. It's a bonus. So, and then obviously reliable Wi-Fi, but they'll have Wi-Fi now. Early on they didn't, but now they do. So like there's one Bootlegger is like a chain. It's kind of like a Starbucks for co-working that is always a go-to wherever you go. Any neighborhood that's going to have one, and it's good. I don't know about the coffee, but the working environment's fine and they don't boot you out. Then there's one called Shift, which is more in the center of the city. That's great because you see the mountain and you're right by like a little like canal area, which is nice and scenic and chill and relaxed. One called Strangers Club close to where we are, which is kind of like in a garden. And so that's really a nice place to just work, and it's kind of like a Zen type atmosphere. I'm sure those people spend a lot of time in Bali. You probably know them.
Awesome. And then I guess kind of one last question is on the female friendly side and safety side of things. Like any tips beyond, you mentioned don't walk around in empty streets at night. Any other key, and you also mentioned specific neighborhoods that are more dangerous, but any other key things that people should know on the safety side, and I guess especially on the female safety side, where obviously you're not female, but you have a partner who's, I'm sure, thought a lot about this stuff.
Like she'll still walk around with her phone out in the city, in the neighborhoods that we live in, which is Atlantic seaboard, all the time, right? I guess you just have to, I can't really say, like, you just have to be somewhat aware. You always have to have your spidey sense on, which you don't in other cities, right? Like, you have to there are like homeless people, there are very desperate people around that will possibly try to take advantage of you. But if you're totally oblivious to it, you're gonna get in trouble. And we've met some women that have come here that are a little bit too confident in their independence, that just walk down the wrong street, even if it's for a couple blocks, and even if it's in the middle of the day, but it's quiet and there's no one around, and you're asking for it, really, because there's a lot of desperate people. So it's just about, having common sense. If you have common sense, you have to be unlucky to have something bad happen to you. You don't need to be paranoid. You just need to be smart, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Anything else to add for someone who's considering Cape Town as a destination?
Yeah, I mean, it's the best place, one of the best places in the world to go for a road trip. It's amazing. Like, you can rent cars really cheap, and just like the amount of things you can see outside of the city. And I'm not just talking about safaris. Like, safaris, they're cool, but they're pretty far away. There's little towns around here. They're amazing to stay at. And then there, for getting a place, Airbnb or some other local networks, you can get just like an amazing sort of cottage on a farm with just some wonderful views and some like farm fresh milk, bread, whatever. And it's going to cost you like $80 a night for the full cottage. So for like 4 people, right? And that's really a huge part of the appeal that people don't think. People just think of Cape Town and that's it. Cape Town, Joburg, Safari, and that's it. But no, there's so much more outside of the city to see and explore that makes this place like never boring, right? And if you get into wine, I never cared a thing about wine until I came here. But once you get into wine, man, the thing is here in Cape Town, they drink all the good stuff and export the bad stuff. So South Africa has a bad reputation for wine, but come here and you get delicious stuff for like whatever, $10-15 a bottle, and you just can't get enough of it. It's borderline unhealthy, but people here also live a very, very healthy lifestyle, so it balances out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate all your thoughts here. This has been great. Appreciate your time. I appreciate you carving out time away from the baby and making this work outside. Last question would be, for anyone who wants to either get in touch with you or follow your work, what social media or websites, what do you want to plug here?
theunconventionalroute.com. And then if you subscribe there, then you get a welcome email where if you respond to that, even though I don't like email, I like talking with and meeting the people that are interested in unconventional route type stuff. Just go there and say hi and chatting with me, for better or for worse.
Awesome. Well, Chris, appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Cam, for having me. Thanks for letting me preach about Cape Town and pretirement and vlogging. All good. And hopefully I make it onto your regular schedule.
Let's do it.